Hello and welcome to Lightworks. In this tutorial we're going to take a close look at the Lightworks audio mixer panel. We're going to learn about all the areas on the mixer panel, where, how and when it can be useful, and apply all of that to your work. We're going to work on a multi-track edit from a song, so we can have a wide range of tracks with our mixer configuration. Okay, let's get the edit open. So on my edit here I've got 9 tracks divided up into all the different instruments and elements of the song. 2 drum tracks, bass guitar track, lead vocals, backing vocals, guitar 1 and guitar 2, piano track and a strings track. First things first, let's get the audio mixer open. Either press the insert key on your keyboard for the shortcut or right click on your viewer and choose audio mixer panel. Now before we go any further, I'm going to reset the mixer to its default values. The edit's been delivered to me, somebody's obviously been playing around with all the mixer settings. So let's reset that first of all. To reset the mixer, go to the Mixer Settings menu, the cogs icon, choose Load Configuration. I'm going to go straight for Example 1, Standard Configuration. These mixer settings files are .tmx files, and you'll find them stored on your system under the paths listed on screen for each operating system. Let's load Standard Configuration, press OK. That's better. The mixer's now in its out-of-the-box default configuration state. Now before we get going and look at the mixer zones in detail, it should be pointed out both your media clips and your edits both have an audio mixer. If I just go over to my bin here and open up one of our audio source files, you see the mixer changes. The audio mixer panel displays the currently highlighted tile or viewer. If I click back on my edit, the panel switches to the source clip. It switches back. So you're sure you know what you're mixing, the mixer panel shows the name of the source or edit at the top of the panel. Click on my audio multitrack edit, displays audio multitrack as the title. If I set my bin to tiles view, click on a tile, look at the reaction of the mixer. We can adjust media without even opening to a viewer, because of course tiles can be played in the bin. Right, back to the edit. First of all, I'm going to turn off all my tracks. I won't hear anything. Hit play. Drums 1, drums 2, bass, lead, backing vocals, guitar 1, guitar 2, piano, and strings. If you want to listen to one of those tracks by itself, or any combination of other tracks in isolation from all of the tracks in the mix, that's the time to use the solo button. Let's check that out. I'm going to go in, solo the lead vocal, add the bass, and the piano. Let's remove those solos. Go back to monitoring everything. In order to correctly understand the function and application of the audio mixer, it would be useful for us to follow the audio signal path right the way through the chain, from the file itself on your disk, through volume adjustments on the timeline itself, then through the mixer, then onto your audio hardware, and finally your speakers. If I quickly exit the project back to the project browser and look at the system settings panel, my hardware I/O device is system sound. This means my audio is being monitored via the sound card in my computer. A bit later in the tutorial we'll go on to discuss the implications of actually using a dedicated video and audio output card, such as one supplied by Matrox, Blackmagic or AJA. Let's focus on just the system sound hardware. I'm going to expand my lead track by right clicking on the track header and dragging downwards. Here's the lead vocal file. The file is read in its raw state straight from disk on the timeline. But what do these yellow and white lines represent on each of the segments I've got on my timeline? If I open the Advanced panel on the Edit Timeline, some other fields are revealed. If I just zoom in a little bit, we have a yellow line and a white line. The yellow line is controlled by this value here. It's the track sound level. With this line, I've been making adjustments to help shape the envelope of the sound with keyframes to adjust the volume over time. I've just been right-clicking and adding keyframes to smooth the incoming and outgoing vocals through each section. The white line is the clip gain. This controls the master level of the sound on the clip on a clip by clip basis. The sound level is the same. It's on a clip by clip basis. This first clip here has a master clip gain of 3.6 dB. If I drag the position indicator to the next clip, I've turned this up a little bit more to 4.8 dB. It's important to differentiate between these values here and the values you ultimately adjust on the audio mixer itself. We come out of the track through these level adjustments and then we go directly into the mixer channel itself. In our case, this is A4. The mixer fader on A4 controls the master level of the entire track. These two levels are independent of each other. I'm just going to reset this fader to 0 by clicking on it. We come out of the master track level fader and we set the panning of the channel to the left speaker, the right speaker, or central. Again, just click this slider to reset it dead center. After the panning comes the output routing stage, or the output bus. By default, all of my channels have been sent to the LR, the left-right mix fader. That's this master fader here. This master fader is then sent out through channel 1 to the left speaker, channel 2 to the right speaker via your sound card. Instead of going directly to the master left-right mix bus, I could go to mix 1, mix 2 or mix 3 input buses. If I set this to go to mix 1, this whole channel is routed into mix 1 here. The level is set through the fader and then the output stage is sent left and right, and that will go directly to your master output channel and onto your audio output hardware. So it's always helpful to visualize all those stages in blocks as you're preparing your audio routing and ultimately your mixing. Let's return to the main sequence. Before I do any level mixing, I'm going to set up panning for each of the tracks. That's as follows. Drums 1, drums 2, bass guitar track are all panned exactly in the center. The lead vocal is dead center, and the backing vocals I'm just going to put slightly to the left hand side, just so they're offset in the stereo image. A6 guitar 1 is going to go to the left hand side, guitar 2 is going to go to the right hand side, and the same for the piano and the strings. Okay, let's do a quick rough mix and get some levels down. Turning our attention to the channel strip faders, let's bring each of the elements in one at a time. First of all with the drums. Then the bass. The guitars. And the piano. And the strings. Okay, that'll do as our rough mix. Now the next thing I wanted to do is group up some of these channels and apply those groups to these mix bus channels. Working with the mix group faders is a great way to mix levels of related instruments or tracks in your edit. It means that I can adjust the levels of related audio just with a single fader, rather than constantly having to adjust lots and lots of different faders. What we've done is balance the groups of instruments against each other. The drums and the bass is one group, the vocals and the backing vocals will be another group, and the guitars, strings and piano will be a third group. We're going to do that as follows. I'm going to turn off my routing on every single channel so that it no longer goes directly to the master output fader by turning off the LR button. Groups are going to be as follows. Group mix 1 is going to be both the drum tracks and the bass. Group mix 2 is going to be the vocals. Group mix 3 is going to be the guitars, the piano and the strings. Now let's check that out. First of all, mix group 1. Now I've hit play and we're not hearing anything, and there's a good reason for that. We need to assign the outputs of the mix channels to go out of the channel and directly back to the master output LR fader, and we do that as follows. The left channel comes out of the left speaker and the right channel comes out of the right speaker. That's channel 1 out the left, that's channel 2 out the right. So L represents the left hand side of the panning and R things that are panned right. Now let's hit play. So we've got the drums and the bass by themselves. All on one fader. Off. On. Let's add our rhythm group to that. And our rhythm group is the piano, guitars and strings, and that's all routed to mix 3. We need to send mix bus 3 to the master left-right output. And finally, let's do the backing vocals and the lead vocal. Let's mix group 2 here. Turn on mix 2. Send it to the left and right master output channel. Now we can just balance that. Want all the vocals up a bit, you can do that. Now the master level was looking a bit hot there, so I'm just going to drop that by about 3 dB. We don't want to exceed 0 here. Okay, so that's sounding in good shape. What I'm going to do now is actually save this mixer configuration to my own file. Back to the mixer settings menu. Save configuration. I'm going to call it remix config-1. And actually I'm going to do something else. All of the edits I'm going to do in this project are going to be based around this multi-track mix. So I'm actually going to use this configuration as a default configuration for any future edits that I make. Again, back to the settings menu. Use this as a project default for future edits that I make. There's no reason why you couldn't apply the track grouping techniques to an edit that contains dialogue, sound effects and atmosphere tracks, and music tracks. Let's have a look at a dialogue edit and quickly configure the mixer to route groups of relevant channels together using a mixer preset. So here's a dialogue edit. I'm using tracks D1, 2, 3 and 4 to put all the talent dialogue on. Tracks 5 and 6 are for stereo effects tracks only. Tracks 7 and 8 for mono effects tracks. Tracks 9 and 10 are for stereo music. We've got a preset mixer configuration already waiting for you for just this scenario. Back to the mixer settings menu, load a configuration. Using example 6, we can group up different tracks on our edit to the mix channels, just like we did with the music. All the dialogues are going to go to mix bus 1, all the effects are going to go to mix bus 2, and all the music is going to go to mix bus 3. Press OK to load that up, and there we go. It's now in a familiar state. 1 through 4, mix bus 1, 5 through 8, mix bus 2, and the music on mix bus 3. I haven't got any dialogue on tracks 3 and 4 because these actors appear later in the edit. Let's just play some of that.
Looks before quality. Well, don't worry. You'll get better parts. Let's play the album.
The first thing I notice is the music's too loud, and I want to bring up the levels of both of the actors. I'm just going to go straight to mix 1, that covers all of the actors' dialogue. I'm going to use the mouse wheel to add 6 dB of gain to that. Just click it upwards once. My atmosphere and effects track levels are okay. And on the music track, I'm just going to drop that down with one click downwards on the mouse wheel, drop it down 6 dB. Let's check that.
Looks before quality. I know. Well, don't worry. You'll get better parts. Let's play the album. Yeah.
And that's sounding better. Okay, let's move on to something else. In my reversioning bin, I got 2 other duplicates of this sequence before any mix changes were made. What I'm going to do is apply the level settings that we fine-tuned from this edit to the edits in this bin here. We do that as follows. Select our edit, to the mixer panel settings menu, apply to existing clips and edits. Now I can apply this mixer panel setting to the open bin, reversioning, and hit OK. That's been applied to my 2 edits in the bin. Now if I click on those edits now, and our original, all the fader levels are set the same. This gives me a chance to do something like the following. If I just open up this clip to our source viewer here, pop open the timeline, on this version I just want to bring down the backing vocals and the lead vocals just back down a decibel or so. I'm going to rename this V2 low vocals. And for my reversion version 3, I'm going to put the vocals up slightly higher than our original mix. Just going to push up the vocal group up a dB or so. Now watch the mix 2 fader. That's the original. There's version 2 with the vocals down. There's version 3 with the vocals up. We still haven't talked really much about what this whole grid of numbers means here. So let's break that down. And doing some exporting is going to help us understand that. So from the audio mixer itself, we have 4 possible output channels for our signals. In my master fader here, I'm simply using output channel 1 for the left hand information and output channel 2 for all the signals from the right hand relating to all of the panning here. So in its simplest form, channel 1 and 2 is the stereo output bus. Well, let's quickly do an export. There's no video in my edit, so we are going to get a black picture on the video files. Drag the export tool. I'm going to work with an AVI, DVC Pro HD, and let's configure this. I'm going to use a mark section, so I'm just going to mark a short section here. So for our export, simply hit export, a stereo track from the left-right mix. 2 channels straight out of this from channel 1 and 2 outputs of the mixer. 48K, 16-bit, with the audio embedded into the file. Let's hit start. I'm just going to drag and drop that back into Lightworks. And there it is, all of our edit nicely mixed down to a stereo pair. If I was being specific, I'd want to pan channel 1 and channel 2 left and right on the source audio mixer. Let's have a quick listen. Close that away and do another export. I want to export each individual track of my edit, but I want to bypass the mixer so that the fader levels don't have any impact on my export. I'm going to use mono tracks and bypass the mixer. I'm going to set my sample depth to 24-bit to maintain high quality audio. I'm going to keep my audio embedded in the file. Drop that in. All my individual tracks back at their original levels, but nicely all contained in a single file. What about another scenario? Let's say your sound man asked you for a picture lock file and individual tracks or stems from your edit. You could deliver that as follows. Just change audio location to separate WAV files. This way I can make an individual video file, DVC Pro HD, and we can make 9 separate WAV files, so they can be tracked in an audio workstation for further post-production. Let's check that out. Now we're seeing each of the tracks being sent out individually. And there's the result. Tracks A1 through A9 and multitrack 3 AVI have been exported as part of that process, with a checksum file as well to make sure that everything matches up correctly. Just reveal that source. That's the video file. Then we've got tracks A1 through A9, individual tracks from the edit. Let's do another export and look at guiding our mix tracks to specific channels of the exported file. Now we've only got 4 channels to work with, so do remember that. So I've got my mix 1, 2 and 3 with our 3 groups of sounds mixed on each fader. For now I'm no longer concerned with outputting these to a stereo bus. What I like to do is all the drums to file channel 1, and the drums are panned centrally so they'll both be included. The bass is in there as well, panned centrally, so that'll be included on channel 1 or track 1. The vocals on A4 and 5 coming out of mix 2 are going to go to track 2. And finally my mix outputs from group 3, which are both stereo channels, are going to go down to channels 3 and 4 on the file. Okay, let's pull up the exporter again. So this time I'm going to use my MOV container, same codec. I'm going to use mono tracks through the mixer, 48K, 24-bit, and again embed it all in the file. Let's hit go. There we go. There's our 4 discrete channels on our file. Just make those a bit bigger for you. So channels 3 and 4 are going to be stereo, remember, so I'm going to pan those left and right. Let's bring them in one by one, see what we got. Drums and bass. Vocals, backing vocals. A stereo guitar, piano and strings. Now not only is that channel routing important for routing individual mix groups into your files, but also it affects the hardware output. So if I just switch to my Matrox connected hardware, relaunch the project, what I'm going to do is, keeping this same mixer configuration, I'm going to run this out to a deck simulator, actually another Lightworks record panel, and we'll see what the results are there. So I've set up another Lightworks system to do a multi-channel capture to simulate playing out to tape via the Matrox hardware. Let's start recording on the capture system. Mix 1 is going to go into channel 1 on the destination system. That's the drums and the bass. Mix 2, the vocals, is going to go into capture channel 2 on the destination system. And the piano, strings and guitars are going to go stereo on 3 and 4. So printing out to hardware and routing your channels from your mix groups is really the same process as grouping things together to print down to discrete channels on a file. And there's our discrete channels in the hardware output. I hope that's helped guide you further through the audio mixer. We hope you enjoy using it. Thanks for watching.